All right, so some things that in your normal day-to-day life, you're just driving around, you're at the office, you're daydreaming about college football because it beats whatever else you're doing in your life. Some things that just pop in your head. Well, my mind works the same way. Or maybe I'm the only one, and the rest of you are looking at me like I'm psychotic right now. But I got some stuff I'm looking forward to. This stuff does not fit necessarily nice and neatly in a game preview, but man, I'm looking forward to some of this. Ohio State at Minnesota on Thursday night. C.J. Stroud is a starting quarterback there. So number one, I'm excited to see him. But number two, just because you're starting quarterback doesn't mean it's your team. But maybe it is your team. See, I'm very, very interested to watch Ohio State just function offensively. They got all the skill and weaponry in the world. They got a loaded backfield that I think will find its groove a little bit later in the year. Very interested to see how much they play Travion Henderson in game 1, game 2, game 3 versus, in November. Pass pro, stuff like that. I mean, it's just hard to have a new starter at quarterback and also put young tailbacks out there because of the pass protection issues and because of the limited ability and the limited leeway that maybe sometimes you give a young quarterback. I'm very excited to see that because if it's not his team yet, eventually if C.J. Stroud's your guy, there'll be that synergy point where it is his team. And it's going to be fun to watch. But some of that stuff takes a little while. You could see this with Bama and Bryce Young, for all we know. I don't know how it's going to pan out. That's why I'm excited to watch it. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Ohio State struggled a little bit out of the gate. That's not the worst thing in the world. That North Carolina-Virginia Tech game, which we just covered a second ago, I can't wait to see what kind of team, I guess comes out of the visiting tunnel. I cannot wait to see what kind of team comes out of that visiting tunnel in Blacksburg, Virginia, Friday night against Virginia Tech. Because I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was 2017, Clemson went up there. And it was one of the best produced games I've ever seen with ESPN. They really hyped the home field aspect. And it's still available on YouTube. I think just the video of the pregame is on YouTube. And that entrance and Enter Sandman, I think we're looking at it right here, awesome environment. And you watch from home, and especially if you're in person, you're saying, I can't believe that a road team is about to come in here with grown men jumping around in turkey outfits to the tune of 65,000 or 70,000. I can't believe a team's going to come in here and actually think they're about to withstand this environment. And then Clemson came in, and they took their hand, and they reached over to the volume button, and they turned it down. They took the lead immediately. They shut the crowd up. They were never a factor the rest of the night, and Clemson cruised comfortably. That's what great teams do. That's what some really good teams can do at the beginning of the season. North Carolina fancies themselves as a program that is either there or on the precipice of being there. This is a game you may not look back on a few months from now. If they win it and cover like we think they will, for all we know, Virginia Tech will be a 500 team at best this year. But they're not 500 right now. They think they got the entire world in front of them. That crowd does too. And if North Carolina goes in there and they silence that environment and they take control of a game like we've seen elite teams do in the past, that's a signifier. That's a sign. That's something to tuck away. They didn't beat the most talented team in the world, but they did something that is a hallmark of teams that are on the rise to eventual Tier 2, Tier 1 type status. Cannot wait to watch that. What about Penn State at Wisconsin? Another game we just went over, but I left a little bit on the table apparently. I can't wait in this Penn State-Wisconsin game for the few hinge moments, because that's absolutely what these games come down to. This probably a little bit older school looking Big Ten game. It's not 44-10. It's nothing like that. There are a few hinge plays, bob plays, bounce of ball plays. It could be one bounce. It could be one block. It could be one fumble. It could be 1 or 2 yards either way that end up determining a game, and then looking at the wild swing and perception off of those just microscopic tiny fractions of inches here and there, because whichever team capitalizes on those 1 or 2 or 3 hinge plays that will determine this game, they're going to capitalize on it to the tune of being shot out of a cannon into the 2021 season. And they're going to be taken to a different level in terms of the national perception. Because Penn State, if they win that thing, they got Auburn white out in a couple of weeks. They'll be favored there, and then they'll be off to the races. Wisconsin's got a couple more big-time games in the first month of the season, but they'll be off to the races. Really interested to see which team capitalizes on that. And then the more sadistic among us are also interested to see which wounded animal walks out of week 1 with a loss and having to go into must-win mode in September. That's always fun, too. What about the first game we talked about tonight? What about Georgia and Clemson? JT Daniels, one of the biggest moments of his life, player or otherwise, is this Saturday night. You can rep it all you want to. You can study film all you want to. You can go through summer conditioning. You can talk to your coaching staff. You can talk to your position groups, and you can even scrimmage in fall camp. But we all know there's eventually going to come a time where a crowd is at full throat and it's Saturday night, week 1, and you're huddled up there for your last instructions before you break it and you take the field. That's the beginning of a football season. Where's your mind at in that moment? As a quarterback, there is such immense pressure on you at this level. You can't simulate it. Where's your mind at that moment? Are you locked in? Are you like Kevin Costner in For Love of the Game? Do you just fine-tune the mechanism where you shut the noise out? Or is the noise there? I'll be on the sideline. I don't have to focus like that. I can hear that noise. But if you're on the field and you got that exact same experience I got, you could get decapitated. You can't have that. You turn the ball over. You got all kinds of things that go haywire. And the functionality of an offense is totally dependent on that quarterback being able to get to a place mentally that very few people can get to. It's really hard to play this game. It's really hard to play that position. And at this level, it's a little bit different because you deal with stuff you don't deal with in a D3 environment. They're not talking about you 8 days a week on radio at a D3 level school. You're not dealing with 75 or 80,000 people at that level. You are at this level. It's a privilege to play under that pressure, but man, it's a pressure cooker nonetheless. JT Daniels, that time is very soon at hand for him. Can't wait to see how he handles it. And lastly, Louisiana, Lafayette, at Texas, just touched on this. Kind of the same deal, isn't it, as the whole JT Daniels dynamic. There's been a lot of talk about Sark. There's been a lot of talk about this quarterback battle. There's been a lot of talk about whether this roster is going to be good enough and whether this staff's going to be good enough and whether the starting quarterback is going to be good enough, whoever he chooses. There is good news or bad news, though, in every football season, depending on what your perspective is. And that is just that. The season is eventually going to arrive. And at that point, it doesn't matter what anyone says. It doesn't matter. If they're overly critical, overly praiseworthy, it's good news if you possess the ability to silence all your doubters, make their opinion irrelevant. It's bad news if you're going to validate everything negative that they said about you over the course of the past 8 or so months. And that, in and of itself, is what I look forward to with this Texas-Louisiana game, because we're rapidly approaching the time to be at hand where it doesn't matter what people are saying, because we got a game every 6.5 days. And now we get to find out, does Hudson Card have what it takes? Was that quarterback battle really a battle of two guys who were capable of winning, or was it a battle of the lesser, I don't want to say lesser of two evils, I already did that one time, but the lesser of two average options? What kind of quarterback situation do we have there? Aside from Xavier Worthy and Whittington, Josh Moore, do we have guys who can emerge as game-changing wide receivers? We get to find all that out now. So I'm looking forward to all that.